Dottie, and thanks for doing an excellent work with the setting things up and making sure that everything is running smooth. I know it takes a lot of work. I also want to thank the team behind the work that is supporting you here to make sure that everything is running smooth. I also want to thank everybody that is making it to the webinar today. I know you're taking time off your schedules to join us today to be able to glean from the conversation and also to support our speaker for today, Professor Elizabeth, who is a very exceptional woman per se. If you look at her profile and the work she's been able to do, everything admirable can be said. And what I like about her largely is the background from which she comes. It's a long story to be able to get to where she is today. And I know she'll be giving us details about that. So my name is Doso Radido, founder and director of Zanfal Publishers, and I'm so pleased to be here today. I want to give us a brief about the idea behind this whole conversation we're doing today, and specifically behind the project. At Zanfal Publishers, we do interventional publishing. That means we do publishing around certain areas of interest that we think we can be able to contribute value in terms of pushing the kind of interventions that should be happening. And we have picked a very huge interest in the area of leadership, particularly the involvement of women in leadership. We've done a couple of projects in that space. We have a series of projects we are calling the She Leads that has a number of volumes in it, in which we just wanted to pick useful lessons from the women who've been in leadership as a way of advising the different stakeholders and the upcoming generations of leaders on what works and what doesn't work and how they can be able to navigate the ever-changing leadership terrain as women. And we did this as a way of helping to put perspective in, how do we tap into the resourcefulness of women, which is a very, very important resource if you want to think about it. And today, so we gather here to look at the subject of risk and risk-taking, especially by women, because we come from a background where there's a lot of data that supports the notion that men tend to take a lot more risk and be a lot more comfortable with risk-taking compared to women. And if you look at that and how it affects productivity in general and even the numbers, because when you talk about involvement of the men and the women, we begin to look at certain numbers that are measures of representation of those two genders. You realize that we have a lot more men in many spaces compared to women. And one of the things that we think affects that is the manner in which men deploy themselves, which is dependent largely on how comfortable people are with risks. And as I say this, I know that not all men are comfortable with risk-taking, but if you compare the numbers, we tend to have more men found in many spaces. We believe or we think that one of the reasons why that is so is coming from the fact of how competent or how comfortable they are with risk-taking. While I'm saying that, if you look at the way women deploy themselves, we also have two categories of women. There are those who are actually very, very aggressive risk takers, and then a huge majority who are, for one reason or the other, not very comfortable with risk taking or not deploying themselves as much or as aggressively as they should. And therefore, that becomes an issue of concern when we begin to think about how to actualize the whole conversation of inclusion of women, or the whole conversation around how do we tap into the resourcefulness of women. One of the things that I keep saying, and I think I'll say it again here, is that after we have done all that we should, created supportive environments, created opportunities, opened them up for women, brought them very close to them, at the point where the rubber meets the road, somebody should be able to engage. Somebody should be able to jump off the cliff and take advantage of those opportunities so that if we do everything we can to make it favorable, to make it accessible, to make it possible, but the women refuse to engage, the women refuse to jump off the cliff and take on these opportunities or take on these assignments, then you realize that we can never really be able to actualize this whole idea of inclusion of women or having to tap into their resourcefulness. So there is need for us to put into perspective how the dynamics of risk and risk-taking happens, especially for the women, and getting to understand that so that the loose ends that needs to be tied can be tied, so that we don't assume that doing everything external, yet ignoring the internal forces that are also a huge factor when it comes to how the dynamics play out. We cannot assume that things will be okay if we don't touch on that. As I finish, I must say that from the look of things, there seems to be two forces that come to play when it comes to the way women deploy themselves, and these forces can either aid or hinder, and they come from two places. They are external forces, the forces of culture, the forces of environment, the forces of policy, the forces of the support system that are happening around. All those are external forces that when channeled in the right direction can create a possibility of us having to realize the whole idea of inclusion and tapping into the resourcefulness that is found within women. And then there are internal forces. These are forces that are working within the women themselves, forces of competence, forces of perspective, forces of drive, forces of fear, forces of ability to take risks, forces of willingness. All these are forces that are within. So that if the external forces are working well, but the internal forces are working wrong, then we will never be able to realize what we're talking about. So that, in our opinion, whereas we are doing every effort to make sure that the external environment and the external forces are pulling or pushing in the right direction, we also should be able to attend to the internal forces and get these people internally prepared and internally ready or competent, or internally deploying themselves in the right way, so that at the meeting point of these two forces, we can experience the results that we are desiring. So today we will get to hear from one of those women who deployed themselves right, deployed herself right, armed herself up with the right mindset, the right skill set, the right tool set, and has been able to demonstrate through her career life and her life in general that it is possible for women to engage in risk-taking and produce positive value out of it. One of the quotes that I picked from her write-up is that risk-taking is a double-edged sword, and it has potential benefits and sometimes it's painful. And I would want to hear more about that when she begins to share. So without wasting so much time, I will hand the meeting back to Dottie so that she can lead us into the next session of this. We get to hear from our guest today. Thank you so very much, everybody, and I hope you are going to enjoy yourself here. Back to you, Dottie.
Thank you so much, Mr. Dorsal, for laying the ground for us. At this particular time, I think it's the right time to bring to us our panelist of the day, none other than Elizabeth Kalunda. You're welcome. You can bring your video on so we can have a glimpse of how this resourcefulness looks like. Good to have you, Elizabeth. I will allow you to tell us about yourself, and then you can dive into it. You're welcome. You're muted, sorry. You may want to unmute.
Sorry, yeah. So thank you so much, Dottie, for that introduction and setting the pace for us. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank so much Adoso Radido for making this possible, because definitely once you get a copy of this book, I believe you'll never be the same again. Yeah, so to start us off, in fact, before I just start, I would actually also like to thank the members who have joined in. I've seen quite a number of my friends, and I'm happy that we are going to share my experience and just a glimpse of what is coming out of this book. So I'm a professor. I'm an associate professor in accounting I work at USIU Africa as currently I'm the acting Deputy Vice Chancellor, Finance and Operations. Besides that, I'm very active in the accounting profession, and I'm actually an accountant. In terms of the profession, I'm currently a member of the Council of ISPAC. I'm serving in my second term. I'm also the Vice Chairman of ISPAC. We use the name MAN, so I hope I'll not get corrections about the gender, but according to the act, we are called chairman. So I'm the Vice Chairman, and I sit also in a number of boards. I sit in the CASNEP board. This is the board that actually sets the exam for accountants. I sit in a number of schools, and something that I'm very proud of, I'm also a shareholder director of a money market firm that is called Lofty Coban. So the reason why I'm giving this introduction is to let every one of us who's watching to know that ladies can achieve a lot. Ladies can do a lot. We should not just imagine that since men over time have been leaders, have been owners of companies, have been holding titles like professors, and maybe in areas that are maybe assumed to be women. So the idea of that is just to tell you that all is possible, but for that to succeed, you definitely must be able to embrace risk. And that is why this book is all about. And I really want to thank Doso Dido for coming up with this idea. Actually, when he called me and told me he has this project, it's about risk, knowing that I'm a risk taker, I immediately took the opportunity. I didn't ask so many questions, but just listening to him, getting to understand his project, I said, this is the person that I would want to partner with so that we can be able to bring up women currently and also those in the future. So as I give maybe just a few briefs about what risk is all about and why women should embrace it as a strategy for growth and success, I just want to start up with maybe what is risk, because maybe some of us are reading the book, we took the risk, so they're not so sure. In fact, I posted the book somewhere, and then somebody said, maybe you could have looked for a better title. But for me, this is the best title that actually resonates with what is there. So when you talk about risk, this is a situation of danger. You are exposing yourself to danger. You're exposing yourself to something that might be negative, but you don't know, but you are still ready to go for it because you know after you overcome it, you're going to be a success or you're going to achieve your goal. Yeah, so risk, actually, there's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of exposure to danger. There are high chances of failure, but you can never succeed if you don't take up the risk. And this is a call I want to make for everyone, both men and women, but more so for the women, because of the environment in which women have been brought up, because of the stereotypes that we have. So I will start by saying that for all of you who are watching or who have logged in, I want to say that this book is just a culmination of mistakes that we have made, triumphs that we have made, and just the successes of these 13 ladies. And if you read this book, you're going to actually have a very clear path on your life on how you're going to be a successful person. So before I proceed, I just want to look at why should we embrace risk, because actually that's what this book is all about. So the first thing is that for women, we always have this imaginary ceiling on top of us, and we feel like we cannot go beyond that ceiling. And for sure, this ceiling might be there. It can be real, it can be imaginary. So by having risk, by just embracing risk, we are able to break that glass ceiling. And note that once you break the glass ceiling, which is not known, you are actually ensuring that those who are behind you can actually now come even beyond where you are. So by taking risks, you are able to create that path for the other ladies to come. And again, when you talk about just breaking the glass ceilings and relating it to taking risk, it's important to note that when we are taking risk, since we've said there's a lot of uncertainty, there are dangers around that, that does not mean that you take just careless risk. You must actually calculate the risk. And we are talking about calculated risk. And I'll go back to just looking at how do we ensure that we get this calculated risk. So one of the reasons that I've just mentioned is that why we should embrace risk is to break this glass ceiling so that we help other women and also the boy child, because these days there's a lot of concern that our ladies are really uplifting themselves and they are ignoring the boy child. So these are our sons, these are our brothers. So let them also learn from this. Another very critical thing why I found it so passionate to give my story in this book is because of the stereotypes that are there that surround women. Now, traditionally, women are, not even traditionally, even now, women are seen as the caregivers, the homemakers, and by those connotations, it means you should not even take jobs that are very demanding, because once you get a job that is very busy, who will take care of the home? So with those stereotypes, we tend to lay back and not take risks. But I want to say that you can still be a mother, you can still be a wife, you can still be a very successful homemaker and still be able to take risk and excel in your careers. Another thing is that through taking risk, we are able to empower ourselves economically. For me personally, I believe in women empowerment. I know that a woman who is empowered, this is a woman who can do so many things. This is a woman whose voice is exemplified at home. This is a woman whose voice is exemplified in the society. So if you have economic empowerment, then there's so much that you can do. Now, ladies, most of us who are not economically empowered, because I like going to the village, I just see what the ladies do, and I see that there's a disadvantage if you don't have economic empowerment. Now, for you to be economically empowered in whatever business you are doing, whether it is small, whether it is big, whether it is formal, whether it is informal, you are able to do so much. And by that economic empowerment, you are able to build your family. And I always believe, I'm a believer, and I believe that a strong society starts at the family level. So if a woman is empowered, this empowerment is actually going to trickle to your family, just that basic unit of the society. And from there, the bigger society is going to be much better. Another thing that is very important about the issue of why we should embrace risk as women is the issue of expanding our comfort zone. Now, when Radido was giving the opening remarks, he mentioned something about how just being confined, having the comfort zones, why can't we break all this? Yeah, so for me, I believe that by embracing risk, because risk means doing something that is more or beyond what is expected of you. So by embracing risk, you are able to expand your comfort zone. If you have a wider comfort zone, then it means your space is bigger. Now, women and even men, because I interact with both of them, at a certain point in our career, we tend to just sit down and relax. And for women, it is even one, especially women, once you start having children, you now change your priorities. You say, I want a job that is not demanding. I want an activity that does not take so much of our time. So by expanding your comfort zone, you are able to do more than is expected of you. You are able to grow as an individual and also professionally. And then since I've said about maybe women and then having children, one thing I want to tell women is that yes, it is important to have time for your family, but let us know that you are an individual on your own. You and your husband, you are also different individuals. Your children also. And at the end of it, the children will grow and go. So it will be so sad for you to look back and say, I wish I did this and this. So we can still combine these things. And in my life, that is what I did. And then this risk-taking is about inspiring others. And for me, that's very clear. I mean, I like inspiring ladies. I mentor a lot of ladies. So let's talk about how do you take this calculated risk? And I'm going to relate that now to my life. Now, I started my career as a teacher, and a teacher in a school in the village, deep down in Machakos. Now, when I was there, actually my first year was fun, but later I just saw this life is a bit too slow. And then I had to come up with very clear goals. What do I want with my life? And my turning point actually came in when when I got a baby. I was married immediately. I left. I finished school. So for me, I started marriage life very early. When I started my first job, I was already engaged, so I got married during that period, and then I got a baby. So in the evening, when I would sit down with my colleagues, just talking about life, talking about what we expect, and I remember just being a fresh graduate, you have very high expectation. So for me, I had to make a very clear decision and and have goals. Now, and I want to contextualize this so that you can be able to understand how you can come out of your comfort zone. Now, when I left, when I finished my university education, we were posted. It was a season, I think we were the last people to be posted by the government. So you can imagine it was a season where getting a job and a government job was something that was so important. It was like your life is secured. but still I was not comfortable with that. So I said, I need to do more than that. And from there, once I set my goal, I just said, I need to change my career. I was a teacher teaching home science and technology, but I felt like I was so good in mathematics. I love maths that deal with money. So I said, I am going to do accounting. Now, where I was, there were no accounting schools. So I had to get a transfer. And for me, I was very clear in my goal. I want to be an accountant. And for me to do that, I have to get the training and I have to go to a good school. So what happened was I decided to look for a transfer. It was not easy to get a transfer. But I can say I was very lucky because my husband really worked so hard to ensure that I get the transfer. And thank God to all his effort and all our prayers, I was able to be posted in a school that was actually in the metropolitan of the city. And I started having my classes. And note that immediately I got the transfer to a school in the river, I started my CPA classes immediately. So that means that even by the time I was applying for the transfer, I already knew the college I'll be attending. I already knew that is what I really want to do, and I did it. So for you to take calculated risk, you don't just do things and then things find you on the way. No, you have to plan and find things on the way. So set very clear goals. The next thing is you must assess your potential. For me, as much as I was taking home science and technology, which I love, which I use it up to now because I make food, I make my clothes, I love homemaking. I looked down and saw what are my potentials. For me, I was very good in mathematics. I was very also good in accounts. And I said that my potential lies in the area and the science of business. And that is where I said, I'm going to harness this potential. So for you, I request you look back at what you have, what is good that you have, and see how you can develop that. Now, as you assess your potential, also now look at what would be the outcome of maybe developing this potential, because we have more than one potential. So it would be important for you to know this potential. If I follow this path, what are the advantages? What would be the disadvantages? And one thing I would also want to mention just before on the setting clear goals. When I was teaching in Machakos, I had a business. It was a business where I was dealing with cereals, and my shop actually used to do so well. And the reason why my business was doing very well is because I came up with some mentality of a wholesale business, things that I've seen. I knew it is good to have fair prices. I knew you better sell more and have a very high volume of sales, and like what the people in that area were doing. So I had a potential for having a very good business. But I said, I'm going to leave this business of mine and move on. So that if I never got that transfer, I think I would be one of the best business people in the area, but that was not where I felt my potential was. So look at all your potentials, assess your potentials in all those, look at the advantages, disadvantages, and then from there, make the decision and follow that path, and you'll definitely make it. Another very important thing when it comes to taking risk, and the risk that I took was having a support network. Now, for me, my family was very critical for my growth. Remember, I am a mother, I am working, and I'm going for evening classes. That time I have a small family, a young family. So I could not do all this on my own. So for you to be able to actualize your calculated risk, ensure you have a support network. So how do you get this? Now, this support network can either be within the immediate nuclear family, within just the extended family, or even your friends. For me, I was lucky. I had very good, my family support was very good, both my side and also from where I was married. Again, another thing is that I had friends if at the college where we were. CPA is a very difficult exam, but we had support network where we would meet at various times and then study together. And I can tell you, I think almost 15 years since then, we are still friends in that group and we still visit each other. So have a strong support network. Another thing about taking calculated risk is that the way I'm giving my story, life is definitely not a straight line. There'll be curveballs here and there, but you must learn from your failures. Failures will always be there in life. I remember for me when I did my last exam for CPA, I failed. But I didn't say that I'm going to give up. I said this exam, as much as I don't know why I failed, it was during a tough time for those of us who are here CPAs. during that time, I said that as much as I failed the last section, it was, I think, the last CPA, the financial accounting paper. The next time I said, I'm going to be I said, now that I've done all the papers, I have only one paper left. I have all the time in the world to read it. So immediately the results were out after I accepted what has happened. I started revising, and I made a timetable and said, every day I must do a topic, I must do a question. And when finally, when the exams came, I sat for the exam and passed. And you can imagine this is somebody who, along the way, I was among the best students. I got awards during my CASNEB exams, but I failed the last paper. But I did not take that as a setback. I actually said, yes, let me look at the environment and said that now that I have all the time to read for one paper, honestly, I should perform it the best that I could ever have. So learn from your failures, take them as opportunities for growth, take them as also opportunities to just reflect in terms of understanding what could have gone wrong. Again, in life, when it comes to taking calculated risk, life can be tough. For me, I recall when I was busy doing my CPA, and I think that was a very long life. I mean, it was very adventurous. It was a time where there was a lot of strenuous reading. I remember that during that time, I cut off my social life. But I would say that even the small things that I was able to do, I was able to celebrate them. So along your way of taking your risk, you are going to cut off quite a number of good things that you do. But remember, since now your life becomes very constrained, because of the attention that you've now diverted from other activities to one, just celebrate any success that comes across your way. So basically, those are the tips that I would have wanted to share. But all in all, what I would want to say is that when it comes to taking risk, once you have achieved the goal that you wanted, don't settle for that. Don't reach your comfort zone. If I look at my education journey, I will say that for me, doing my CPAs was actually a turning point in my life up to now, because after that, I decided to do a master's in accounting. After that, I went ahead and did a PhD in a similar area. So you can see that one path was actually a path that has shaped my life. So what I'm trying to tell you here about taking risk is that once you have achieved one level of your goal, don't go to the comfort zone. Otherwise, you'll become like just any other person, but go to the next step. Right now, for me, where I am, most people believe that I have achieved. Yes, I have achieved, but I still feel there's more that I can do. And that is why, for me, I believe that taking risk is very important as women and even as men, but most of the ladies, we must always embrace risk. When failures come along the way, because risk definitely has failures and has uncertainty, let us take it positively. So I think with that, maybe probably Adoti, I might want to turn it back to you. But before I say that, again, I want to just caution all of us that when we talk about risk, that does not mean taking reckless behaviors and calculated mistakes. No, risk is not about mistakes. It's looking at an opportunity and just shooting and saying, for me to get that opportunity, this is what I'm going to do. So let me take it back to you, Dottie, so that we can open up. You can take us to the next stage. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth Kalunda. That was a properly prepared presentation. There is so much in there to learn already. I'm feeling like we are done, but we are still so eager to hear more from you. This webinar is brought to us by Zion Pearl Publishers. It is a pre-launch webinar. We are discussing risk-taking and women's leadership, where we are looking at the value of risk-taking and why women should embrace it as a strategy for growth and success. Speaking to us today is Elizabeth Kalunda, and from the short presentation she has given, you can already tell she's a guru in this area. So we are really in for a good time. Thank you so much for sharing those great insights. Maybe just looking at where you're coming from. A secondary school teacher somewhere in the village and now a vice chancellor of a prestigious university. Maybe I have a question. Probably you had an experience with it, or maybe you can say something about it. How does the societal expectations impact women's willingness to take risk? And how can this narrative be shifted?
Okay, yeah, thank you, Dottie, for that. Now, the societal expectations, I would say that for us as African, they are actually limiting to women, because the society views the woman as the nurturer of the home, and the society believes that our role is, we are actually, it even has biblical bearings, because the Bible says that the man is the head of the house, the lady is the helper. So if we take this helper in a very limited way, it will mean that the work of the woman is to sit at home, make sure that the man provides and the lady works. Now, when we advance that, again, we can say that when it comes to jobs, we'll say, like, let the men do the main jobs, and then as we help them, not as being at the top. Now, being at the helm of the second highest position at the university, I've seen that it is possible women can actually lead. Those societal expectations, especially the ones that are a bit downgrading for the women, we should ignore them. And for us to even, and I'm happy that these days, if you look at the world, we've had women who have become senior, very senior in the society. Look at somebody like look at if I go to the American state, look at Hillary Clinton. She was a woman. Look at now the current elections at the US. Look at Michelle Obama. She was she was the president's wife, but she really was known because of the many things that we are doing. But now, looking, if you come to the African setup, yes, we have a number of examples, but still the number of women is low. Look at our political landscape. If a woman decides to take up a position in politics, people will start telling her, go back, take care of your home. They'll try to scandalize her. So the society as it is now, especially in the African context, it does not embrace women as leaders, women as, it doesn't give that free line to the women. And that is even in Kenya, from a constitutional point, we had to create a position where we have the women representatives, which ideally should not be the case. So since I know that is likely to change with the change in the, with future changes in the constitution, for us as women, we have to, let me say it in Kiswahili, lazima tujitume. We have to put that effort. We have to put our right foot forward. We have to get people who are going to help us to grow. And as we try to break these societal expectations, women should come together. Women should stand for each other. Because I know sometimes we are told that women, we are our own enemies. Now, women, that narrative for me, I say this is a narrative that is meant to take us backwards. It is not true. I have grown because of the women I've had in my life. My mother has been very inspirational. I've also grown because of leaders who are women who have actually told me, can you take up these positions? So for me, I would say, as much as we have that perception that the society maybe does not embrace women as leaders and women taking risk, I say that we can go against that narrative. Let us live to show that that actually is not the case. Thank you.
Wow, so inspirational. Thank you, Elizabeth Kalunda. Allow me to just remind us again that this webinar is brought to us by Zion Pearl Publishers. Elizabeth Kalunda is one of the co-authors of the upcoming book, We Took the Risk, scheduled to be launched on the 30th of November. So we have a registration link available to you on the chat. If you want to be part of the launch experience on the 30th of November, please, you can click on the link and just register. Then you can join us on the day as we celebrate together with her other co-authors of the book. We also have the book pre-order form. If you want to pre-order a copy of a book for yourself, for a friend or someone else, all these details are available on the chat. You can reach out to us should you have a question or a concern. We also have our contacts on the chat. I also want to encourage us, the audience, if you're picking any nuggets, you're picking any lessons, feel free to share on the chat. We will be coming back and reading them. If you have a comment to make, you want to comment her, just put something on the chat. We shall come back and look at that. Already somebody is saying I can't get enough. Very inspiring. And we are just started. We are yet to, and not just her story, but together with the co-authors, you will be out of this world. So thank you so much for joining. I would encourage you to post your questions. Let us have some questions for her to answer. She is here to attend to our needs today. She has proven that she's an expert in this area. To the risks she has taken and the growth from a high school teacher in the rural to a vice chancellor. I have read your chapter actually, and the same quote that Mr. Dosso has talked about also was intrigued. While it can lead to significant opportunities and advancements, it also exposes you to potential setback. Elizabeth Kalunda, tell us something about that quote.
Yes, yeah, that is very, very true. Now, when you take risk, you are actually perceived as somebody who is ambitious, somebody who is a go-getter. And in the process, you'll have very many, maybe people trying to pull you backwards. And for me, I had such an experience. I have had such experiences. So even when they come, I embrace them. So normally when you're really trying to fight and just be the best that you can be, there are people who normally are not very happy. And the reason why they are not happy is because probably for them, they have reached a comfort zone and they are not, and sometimes I say it is actually not out, it is not out of malice, but they are wondering, why is this woman being so aggressive? And yet we know that women should only reach up to this level. So the setbacks that I've gotten in my life is sometimes when you share your stories with people, these people are the ones who are going now to go against you. And this is a lesson that I have learned. And sometimes I mean, I really like reading the Bible. In my church, I serve as the chair lady of the women's ministry. So there's some teachings in the Bible that say, don't share your secret with everyone. And I can relate this to the story of Joseph. Remember, we all know Joseph, who was able now to take actually he's the cause of the Israelites being in Egypt. Now, the reason why Joseph was sold by his brothers, I would say it was because of the utterances that he used to make. He would actually tell them about his prophecies. He'd also tell them the way he's great and all that. And these brothers, as much as they are men, and here we are talking about women, they were not happy about that. And they decided to sell him. So what I would say, sometimes the setbacks that we encounter, they are not because of the mistakes that we have, but sometimes the people we share our stories with. So I would like to request all of us, as you have your plans, be wise in terms of, be discernful, know who to tell your story, know who to tell your plans, and also know when to tell people about your plans. Because by telling people about your plans, one, there are those who will discourage you and tell you this is not possible. There are those who can actually now go and start laying traps along the way. So this is something that I've experienced, and I'm sure all the ladies who are serving in high positions, you have seen such things. So the thing that you need to take as a risk taker, just acknowledge that such things happen, and I've tried to avoid them. And I've said, for me, what are the big lesson that I've learned is the importance of keeping your stories, not really stories, your secrets. And when I talk about secrets, even the Bible says these are your plans. So don't tell people your plans. Put them down in writing and follow them. If you need to tell somebody, just be very careful of who you are going to tell your plans. So for me, I would say that would be one of their setbacks. But then also another way of maybe trying to to ensure that setback does not work is that, and this is a lesson that I've seen in my life. When I was doing my studies, I think I've studied for a long time in my life. You can imagine doing my CPAs, doing my master's, and doing my PhD. I've had a long time of my life in books. Now, when when you are in such a situation, you really need to have the favor of your employer, because you'll be you'll be requiring time off the office. Sometimes in the office you'll be there, but you'll be doing some other things. Sometimes you'll be wanting to work beyond the office hours, so you need to use the office facilities. So for others not to maybe curtail your plans, sometimes it is important, if you have a good boss, to just tell him what is happening in your life. And for you to get now those favors in terms of maybe permission, using resources, you must do well at work. You must give the best in the work that you are doing. For me, if I look back in my life, when I was doing my CPA classes, I was traveling all the way from Athi River to Nairobi. Now that is a long distance, and this is in the evening. So sometimes I would request the person who comes up with the timetable to actually have my classes end at around 3:20 so that I get time. Now, as a school, you need to balance. Sometimes you have classes until late, others until maybe that time. So I had to go, and I did my work well as a teacher. I taught so well. And I'm so happy when I meet my students, because they tell me, actually, You really inspired me. And I'm happy that, I mean, you made me, especially for the girls, they would say, you taught so well that you made me love coming to school. And from there, the students were doing well even in the national examination. So what I would say to maybe curtail some of these setbacks that can be there, do your work well so that you have the favor of your bosses, so that you can be able to progress. And again, don't forget to pray, because for me, I believe the greatest favor comes from God. If you pray and you do what is well, actually God's favor will be upon your life. So that's what I would say about the setbacks. But again, once you have the setbacks, don't let them make you fall. Always use that failure or that setback as a learning and correction, and you move on. Yeah. Dottie, back to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. You're very inspirational. This is so insightful. Thank you for being with us today. I would want to read a few comments in the chat, even as encourage more people to be posting something there. That question you're burning with insight, this is the time to ask it. You know, experience is the best teacher. So when someone is speaking from their experience, then you can be sure they're very well informed. They have details, they have reasons, they have proof. So we have Elizabeth with us here today. And she's one kind of that, she's that kind of a person. So karibuni sana, post something, let her see what you'd like to know. Somebody says, and this is Charity Kalonzo, I can't get enough, very inspiring. Yes, very inspiring. Lucas Gimona, thank you, Prof, for the inspirations. Charity Gidinji, Prof is my mentor. Oh yeah, I look up to her in all ways. Keep inspiring us, Prof. We love you. Oh, you have a mentee in the house, Professor. Charity Kilonzo, I saw a snippet of your story somewhere and got curious about your story. Truthfully speaking, I have Googled a lot. I have Googled about you a lot. Thank God I'm closer now. Thanks for sharing your story. We thank God for the opportunity to be here with her today. This is a privilege that we appreciate all. Wambui Mugweru, Prof is very insightful. There is a lot for women to learn, and her story is so inspiring, greatly inspiring. Gladys, great Lucy Ochieng, great insights, Prof. Asante. Gladys Masai, great Prof. How do you manage your work-life balance? And when there's a question, we stop there. We listen to the answer to the question, and then we can proceed. So, Elizabeth, how do you manage your work-life balance? Gladys Masai would love to know.
Okay, thank you for that. And also thank you for the comments. Yes, okay, before I answer Gladys' question, I would say that I love mentoring. I'm happy when I see people come out better because of the interaction with me. And I'm happy that I have my mentees along, who I tag along. Whenever I go places, I tell them, can you come so that you can see how women that I associate with are, so that you can be inspired to be like that. Yes, there's this question about work-life balance. Honestly, let me say that there's nothing like work-life balance. It is just ensuring that you do the best in that portion. If you are a mother, just be a good mother. Sometimes you know you'll not be there. So the little time that you'll be having with your children and your family, give it the best. So I'm looking at quality time. It is not about the quantum, it's not about the quantity, it is about the quality. So since we all have 24 hours, so you can imagine I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and it is all the 24 hours. So the question is quality time. How will you ensure that there's quality? In fact, sometimes I look at the things I do. I'm the vice chairman of ISPAC. It has responsibilities. I'm the vice chancellor of USIU. It has responsibility. I'm a mother too. I'm a wife. I have my business that I run. I also have my personal life now, my me time for me. So the issue is quality. Whenever I have time for myself, let me get the best for that time. So for Gladys, I would say actually work-life balance for me is a mirage. You can never achieve it, but ensure that the time that you have, you spend it well. Because I normally say time just comes and goes. You can never, in fact, we normally say time and tide wait for no man. So within that time and that tide, just have the best quality that you can. And then now there's something I just have remembered that I would feel it's important to talk about it, and it touches on risk. When I started, I said that I'm a shareholder director of a firm that is called Lofty Coburn. And how I came to be involved in that is through networking. And I normally tell any person, especially the ladies, when you go out to network, you must go out to network with a purpose. Networking does not mean just going out, meeting people, saying hi, talking about and nothings. No, networking must be intentional. You must go prepared for that networking. You must have an objective in that networking. So as for most of us, we think networking is going, collecting so many numbers. Once you collect the numbers, you'll never even talk to those people. That is not networking. Networking should be intentional. You must have a goal. Now, for me, because I attend so many social events, I normally say for this event, I just want to network with 2 or 3 people, because networking, if it is intentional, it takes a lot of energy. And for me, all the networks that I do, I will carry that friendship beyond that activity. So I will call you, we are going to have coffee, and then since I saw there's something that we have in common, you go about it. And you can see this actually has an issue to do with risk, because you can imagine you are going out, you don't know these people, you are meeting people for the first time, you have limited time. How will you maximize on the quality of that networking event? So this is very important. So if I go back to this farm that I had, I went to a place and then we were introducing ourselves. So I just introduced myself. It was a kind of professional, so you have to introduce yourself in terms of what you do. So one of the ladies who was there actually said, wow, I love the profile of this lady. We are starting up a company and we want, actually they were in the process of starting up a company. And in this company, we want somebody who is good in finance. So she came and approached me and told me, yeah, she's so and so. She told me where she works. She told me what she sells. I also liked what she sells. So I told her, yeah, let's meet. I gave her an appointment on when we'll meet, and I bought her product. And then she told me, by the way, there's this farm that I have. I mean, I'm a part of the owners. It's about to start, and we require somebody in accounting. So after she explained, I saw this is a good idea. So I told her, okay, here is my profile. But later I thought and said, honestly, for this farm, one, I'm not looking for a full-time job, but I'm seeing a bigger opportunity beyond the consulting in accountancy. Why can't I be invited as a shareholder? Now, remember, these people, I didn't know the rest of the people other than this friend that we had met. So, one, there was an element of risk. One, for me to be incorporated in that farm, I had to part with some millions. Now, that is not little money. I didn't have it at that time. So, and again, these people, when would we know? I mean, when are we starting? It's a business, it's a money market farm, it's a very highly regulated farm. So when the lady now decided to go and present my name, they said, no, right now we are not looking for shareholders and what and all that. But I told her, give me the number of your, the vision bearers of that group. He gave me the number. Personally, I called that gentleman and told him, hi, I am so and so, you received my CV. And we just became friends immediately. I told him, honestly, I want to be part of this journey. So he asked me, after just talking, he said, yeah, okay, fine. We see that you have some value that you can bring in our farm. So he said, we'll be having a board meeting in a few weeks' time and I'll present your case. And you can imagine that is how I became a shareholder of a farm, which currently we are actually having assets and a management of over 2 billion in just 1 year, 3 months. So how did I get there? When we did the networking, I didn't just sit back, but I decided to go beyond the comfort zone of just knowing this person. I went beyond the comfort zone of being invited to be a financial consultant. And then after that, when I got that opportunity, it was actually a very short deadline. I was told within this time, you must contribute X amounts of money. I didn't have the money. So I had to go home, we talked about support networks. I had to tell my husband, this is the plan. And then he said, yeah, it sounds like a good plan. And together as a family, we decided to now know where we get the money. And I actually was able to get the money. So what I'm saying here, with a will, with the goals, everything is possible. But the key thing here is about networking, taking risk, but a calculated risk. And you'll actually do things that even beyond your expectation. I never knew that right now I'd be having a farm that it's among the best performing farm in the money market farm. I mean, on my own, I wouldn't have done it, but I took risk and I networked and I was able to choose the right person to network because when you are networking, you have to be intentional. So those are some of the key lessons that I'd actually like to say to all of you so that when you go out there to network, be very intentional. Thank you. Back to you, Dottie.
Thank you. So be very intentional with your networking. Thank you so much for that elaborate answer and for your vulnerability. You are sharing your heart out and we are getting helped. We appreciate you for that. So Nelly Gidai says, Prof, you inspired me a lot while you taught me managerial accounting in USIU with passion and perfection. With passion and perfection, accounting wasn't tedious or hard work with you. Your story is further encouraging and motivating. Thank you for being a mentor. Nicodemus Kitukutha. Oh yes, Prof is a great mentor. Assisted me so much during my PhD. Mercy Ododa. Hello, Professor. Professor, I am. Okay. Did you transition from one career to another? And can you speak about changing from one job to another? Because myself, I have some fear of unknown. So I think the person here is asking if you transition from one career to another, and that you may speak about changing from one job to another, if I got them correctly. Elizabeth.
Yeah, that's a very good question, because indeed I transitioned from one career to another one that was 180 degrees, I mean, different from it. So remember, I trained as a teacher, Bachelor of Education, and I did we are calling it home science and economy, and it was home science and technology. That is the science of running the house, cooking, dressmaking, getting the right food for your kids, nutrition and dietetics. Now, right now, I'm an accountant. I deal with figures. Right now, the kind of job I do, I oversee procurement, I oversee ICT, I oversee transport, I oversee facilities. So you can see this is something totally different. But I was able to get it. Now, how did I get there? Because that's the question she's asking. And also the issue of transitioning from one job to another, she fears. Now, what I said is that when you have a goal and you are determined and you make a plan, because I normally say that our plans are important, but planning is everything. You know, you can have a plan, but the process of planning, because if you know that process that you planned, that is the most important thing other than just the plan. Because if you understand that process, the planning process, along the way, if anything deviates, you know how to go back because you know where you went. So for me, from a career point, yes, I spent actually 4 years in campus doing my B.Ed in home science. I enjoyed it. And then after and actually worked as a teacher for a while, but then I just knew this is not where I want to be. So I decided to transition to another profession, a totally different profession. So one, I had that determination and I had done some background. I had relatives who were accountants, and I actually would say this, I think this is what I would want to do. So for you, for those of you who feel like you're in a career that you are stuck in the rut, you still have an opportunity. But the most important thing is to know where are you going. And that's what we are talking about, calculated risk. So if you are maybe in IT and you feel that maybe engineering is what is better, you can go ahead and do it. And I think for me, I would also want to share the story of my son. My son, when he finished his Form 4, we encouraged him to do medicine. And he decided to just follow along, but that was not what he wanted. But after he finished when he was about to finish his first year, he just came and told us, Mom and Dad, I don't want to do this course. Me, I'm a hands-on person. I want to go and do engineering. And we were a bit disappointed, but we supported him in the next course. Why did we do this? Because I appreciate that in life, your career can always change. But since the career is the one that you'll be doing for the rest of your life, you need to do something that you love. So like for us, we just asked the boy, are you sure you have made up your mind? Or after 1 year, you'll come and tell us, now I don't want this, I want this. So we gave him time and told him, think about it, decide what you want, we'll support you, but make sure you sit down and do your calculation, chart your path, and go ahead. So like even for me, and I was, the reason why for me, I was able to take it up, even though at first it was a bit difficult because he had wasted a whole year, was I knew even me, I had changed my career. For me, it had taken long because I went to university, I never changed. I went again and taught, and then during that, all along, I knew this is not exactly what I wanted, but I had to make a decision and say, this is the time for action. So for the lady who had asked about that, yes, I changed a career, and you can all of you can actually also change the career. But the issue is you must know where you want to be and have a plan on how you are going to get there. Now, you talked about fear of changing jobs. I would say that definitely whenever we have a future that something that is uncertain or something that is different from what we have the status quo, we'll have the fear. But let that not prevent us from making a move. And do your calculations. If it is changing a job, maybe just do some background on this new job that you are going. Because I've seen people who make mistakes, who change jobs without a very clear plan or without doing some good background of where they are going, and they end up finding themselves in worse situations than where they were. So do a lot of background check. Look at, is this farm stable? What is the work culture of this place? Does this place have toxic environment? What is the turnover of this place? And that you can always get this information. Especially these days with the social media, you can get so much information about certain places. And the way I know, the universe is so interesting. If you want something, you'll get it. You'll actually find maybe during your networking sessions, you just get somebody from that new place you want to be. So you will get the information. But what I would say, get more information before you go. And for me, career changes, I always believe they're important. Like for me, there's a time I used to have, there's a time when my careers, I would really change job frequently. After every 3 years, I change jobs until somehow finally I felt now I'm in a place that I'm comfortable, and I've been there for quite a while. So always change careers, but when it comes to, okay, and you remember the question of changing careers is different from changing a job. Changing career means you are learning, your training now goes to another area. So that one you can do it, but you don't have all the time in the world. What you can do, you can now bring in more skills to whatever you have. And in my life, looking at the many things that I have gone through, because I did home science and technology. I've done, I'm a certified mediator. I am a CPA. When I look at all these kind of learnings that I've learned, as much as they are diverse, there is a point where they come and converge, and they become useful to you. So there's no form of education that goes to waste. So if you feel that you change, you can decide to do things that are more related, or you can decide to expand your scope of learning so that you expand your opportunities. So for me, that is very important. But make sure you have a plan and you take calculated moves. Yeah, that for me is very, very critical. And maybe one thing I would want to say, there's a time I had gone to give some ladies talks, a talk about just how you can grow yourself. And I was very inspired when women who had even retired, they were telling me, from your story, we are actually going now to take another route that is totally different. Because what I came to discover is that women, sometimes we have plans, but because of family issues, they tend to be suppressed. But when you get somebody to ignite that fire, it lights. So they told me that light has come back, and I'm going to go for that. And now that I've now retired, I can actually do that more. I have more time, I have more passion, I have more money, I have more independence. So you can imagine a career change, a great move in your life. It is not fixed to a certain time in your life cycle. You can do it anytime, so long as you have that zeal. Yeah, back to you, Dottie.
Wow, I'm loving your story. Thank you so much. I'll read more of the comments coming on the chat, and then maybe we can proceed from there. So Beatrice Wambia says, so much to learn from you, Prof. Glad to be under your mentorship. Looking forward to be a woman of great impact in this society. Nicodemus, with her guidance, I've learned so much for the life and career progression. Alex Kebaso, it does not matter where you start from. What matters is determination, motivation, and above all prayers. One will get beyond the sky. Pamela Okach, how do we know which are healthy risks to take in terms of the degree of various risks? So this is a question here. How do we know which are healthy risks to take in terms of the degree of various risks? Let me call you professor like they're calling you prof. Please attend to that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, so there was a question, that question was like, how do you discern that this is the risk or the line that you should take? Now, in my life, I've always had mentors And as I've grown, I've also now had coaches. When I did my big career move, I had people I was watching, and I could see this is the kind of career, this is the kind of life that I want. So one way to know whether this is the right one, have mentors, have people you look upon. And some of these mentors, you don't even have to know them. You can just shadow them. So if you love maybe public speaking, you can be watching YouTubes of people who public speak. If you want to be a business person, you can be watching videos or YouTubes or even documentaries of very successful people. So for me, I would say for you to be able to be like sure that this, you can remember this is taking risk. You can never be 100% sure, but at least you can be able to have a direction that is focused and is, and even if there's a detour, it is still along the same path. So have mentors along your way. Look out for people who do what you believe that is what you want to do. Now, the other career, maybe if you have maybe two alternatives, you can even now decide to go and look for the people in this area and this area and ask questions, and then you make decisions. Otherwise, and these days I normally say this is an era where we have a lot of there's a lot of, in terms of information, it's an information age. You can always get information from many other places so that you can be able to know whether this is the right path. And for me, I want you, all of you who are listening, to be able to embrace risk. I have friends who we have met through LinkedIn, not through physical or social events, just through LinkedIn. And I normally say that these friends are people who are so guttiers, from a gut point, because they are going to come to your inbox. They tell you, I am so and so, I want this, and I've seen you have this, and I want to be like you. And from there, you become friends with that person. Actually, when I look at my mentees who are here, a number of them, I actually met them through social media, either Facebook or LinkedIn. So you must be able, so these people, we all know their profiles. If it's a certain career, you can be able to get that person. Just inbox that person. And again, remember, I said that from failures or maybe a negative outcome, don't give up. If the person never responds, that is okay. Just say, let me go to the next person who has a profession like this, like the one I desire. And out of those people, definitely, God will lead you to the right person. And you'll be able to actually progress and go where you've always wanted. Yeah, so these days, do the calculated risk, get information. These days, information is completely at our disposal. Nobody should say in this generation that I didn't know. There are always solutions. And the beauty is that the world is now a village. You can even talk to people. In fact, I remember recently, there's somebody we met from India, and we had some very interesting conversation. Finally, this person came, and we had another engagement of something that we want to do. So you can imagine, if it wasn't for just him reaching out and me being open to this conversation, I wouldn't have been there. So for me, I always take my life as a risk, but I normally look at it, it's not a random risk. It is something that I'm intentional, and the way we say the universe conspires, it gives you what you want. So it always gives me most of the time what I want. Yeah, thank you. Back to you, Dottie.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I'm getting to understand the title of your chapter, Risk, the Road to Success. Actually, you have lived it, you're living it, we can tell. And we are so glad that we are part of this conversation today just to get to learn some of these things from you. Thank you so much. So the next question here is, what risk management strategies do you employ to ensure that cash flow remains stable during periods of financial uncertainty?
Yes, now, I think now cash flow relates to budgeting, because this is where finances are supposed to be there at the right time, where you don't have a lot and you don't have less. Now, for me, I normally plan my finances, and you can imagine, for me, running a money market farm, I must be somebody who understands the issue of investing. I understand the issue of timing, and I also understand the issue of the reward. So for you to be able to ensure that you have financial stability or sustainability, you need to understand what are your finances now. What is the likely outcome in the future? Will you continue having your job? Is your business growing? Are your consultancies coming? So if you operate in a business environment that is cyclical, For those of us who do consultancies, we know money comes in seasons. There are seasons of plenty and seasons of lack. So you need to now map up and say, I know I normally get like 2 very big consultancies twice in a year. So I have to plan for these finances when they come, so that when they come, you don't squander, and yet you know you have one more and there's a year to go and you have all these expenses. So understand your situation, learn where your revenues are coming from, match your expenses with your revenues, and you'll be able to ensure that you have financial stability. And this will be in terms of want or in terms of not. But normally now we are also given this rule that if you are employed and that is the only source of income, most of us are in that situation where your only source of employment is the income, meaning that if you lose your job today, then you don't know about tomorrow. So what we normally teach, because I'm a personal finance teacher. What we normally say is that out of you should make sure you have reserves, you have savings. And for me, I say these savings must be invested, and they must be invested in an asset that can be converted to cash very easily. So it must be in liquid assets. You must be able to know that I should have at least salaries that can cover me for 4 to 6 months. 4 to 6 months. Why is that the case? Normally, if you lose your job now, if you had not intended, it might take between 4 and 6 months to get a job. So always make sure that you have a saving to enable you to cover your salary. And that is why sometimes we normally say most people who drive big cars, you are only one salary to poverty, because if you lose that job, you cannot afford anything. So for those of us who are watching, please make sure that you have a cash cover. If you have a business, you must have a cash cover. Is it 6 months? Is it 4 months? But just look at how are you able to recover. For me, that is very important. And also one thing I would want to say is that as much as I propagate that people should be able to enjoy their money, because there are these people who, in the old people, I think the generation ahead of us, our parents, our fathers and mothers, these are people who lived a sacrificial life where maybe they don't want to spend for a future, which they might not be there. For me, I don't believe in that. I believe that you should be able to use your money to make yourself happy so that you can work more to generate more. Otherwise, if you are working for a future that you don't know, that is not actually covering a risk. It is actually like enslaving yourself. So use your money well, have a portion to just spend it the way you want so that you can be able to have the motivation to work. Yeah, so before I return it back to Dottie, I saw a comment from one of my students. I taught managerial accounting, and she said how it made that easy. Now, remember at the beginning, I'd said that whatever you do, do it to your best. When I was teaching in high school, I taught my kids with all the passion that I had, because I knew this is a very formative stage of their life. If they don't pass, if they don't like school, if they don't get inspired by me, then they will not have a good life. So I gave it my best. When I went to campus, I was teaching the doctoral classes and the master's classes. I would teach my students knowing that many people fear accounting. And you can imagine I'm teaching a master's in business administration. These guys are doing HR, they're doing strategy. They're not accountants, so they don't know any accounting. So I said, let me take it like these people have never had a debit or a credit. They don't know anything about the science of money. And I taught it with passion. I taught it in a very simplistic way. And my students will get grades like A in a course which at the beginning they were fearing. And I'd always start with the class and tell them, in my first class, I tell them, I know there are these thoughts about accounting, it is difficult, but I tell them, no. By the time we are done with this class, you'll actually be liking accounting. And there are some I converted, guys who are coming to do marketing, but then now they say, I'm going to do finance and I'm also going to enhance it and do accounting. So for me, that was very, very important, because I believe that we are here for our time. In fact, we are told you count your days, just know you are here for a season. So give it the best that you can ever give, so that when you look back, you are able to just say, I am happy I lived this time and I gave it the best that I can. Yeah, back to you, Dottie.
You're a rare gem, so authentic, so real. Thank you for sharing with us. Charity Kilonzo is asking a question. What if you find out that your area of potential is broad? How do you narrow that to your choices instead of gambling?
Thank you. Let me read it. What if you find out that your area of potential is so broad? Yes. Okay. That again is a good question. And you are also trying to ensure that you take a calculated risk so that you are not all over where you scatter all your wheat. Yeah. So again, what I would say, Charity, and for the rest of us is that for you to now narrow to the best that you can be, and I would actually take it to, like, for example,
Yeah, sure.
accounting is very broad. We have different streams of accounting. So the question would be, how would I know I'm an audit? I'm good in audit, internal audit, management accounting, cost accounting, financial reporting. Now, now it's, you can talk to people. You can talk to people who are in those areas so that you can reduce, that can help you to narrow down. Now, for me, I think I was very intentional in terms of which area do I want. Yeah, and that is because of my background. You can see I was changing a career. So by the time I change a career, I should be very clear on exactly what I want. So Charity, what I would want to say is that since when you want to make some of those moves, you don't have all the information, just link yourself to a mentor. And I want to emphasize the importance of mentors in our life. If it was not for mentors, I wouldn't be where I am. If it was not for the coach that I currently have, I would not be where I am. So there's always somebody up there who is ahead of you, who you should be able to look up to. And once you are and once you appreciate that, you will say, now, despite of all my, maybe where you feel like you've really reached maybe at the top of your career ladder, there'll always be somebody up there ahead of you. So link with this person so that you can be able to learn. And again, I still keep repeating, we are in an area of information age where we have a lot of information. So for most of us, instead of sitting down watching the Nigerian movies for the ladies, why can't you watch a documentary of a successful woman? Why can't you get a book like now the book that we are now doing the pre-launch? We took risk to just understand and make yourself better. I know sometimes it's good to entertain yourself, but 10% of what you watch should be entertainment. 90% should be to build you. So that is what actually I would say. We are not in an area where we have lack of information. We're in an area where there's information. I've talked about how you link and reach out to these people. You can go to networking events. I'm very privileged because as an accountant, we have very many networking sessions through the various CPD events. So we have that opportunity to network. Even at school where I work now, there are opportunities. In fact, when I was teaching, right now I'm in a tour of duty where I'm now going to admin. But when I was teaching, as much as I'm the teacher, there's so much I can learn from my students. And I know some of the students, some of my students, we have become very good personal friends. We are now watching. We have actually, sometimes I have a friend who I refer to as my accountability partner. She was my student, but now we went beyond that, and we are doing very many great things together because we have similar energy, we have similar likes, we have similar drives in life. Yeah, we have similar passions. So why can't we work together to become better? And why can't we have accountability for each other, where we'll sit down at a period and say, where should we be a year from now? What should we do to be where we want to be? And then after 2 months, we meet and ask, so let me see, what have you been doing to be where you are supposed to be? And from there, we have been able to hold each other's hand. We have been able to grow to be better persons, better women who inspire, women who are living a fulfilled life. Thank you. Back to you, Dottie.
What a resource. What a resource. This webinar is brought to us by Zion Pearl Publishers, which is also the organization behind the project We Took the Risk. The panelist speaking to us, Elizabeth Kalunda, is a featuring voice in the book We Took the Risk. Actually, her chapter is the first chapter. And you know what her title reads? Risk, the road to success. You can get to understand that. We have a pre-order form in case you want a copy of this book. Please find it on the chat. And also the book will be launched on the 30th of November. You can also pre-register to be part of that celebration of that day. Come, let us celebrate Elizabeth Kalunda together with other co-authors, who some of them are also in the meeting. Allow me to acknowledge their presence. Any co-author on the call, please, by show of hand, let us see you. We have some co-authors with us here. We have, I can see Judin Guru. Judin Guru, it's exciting to have you. Isn't this interesting? Isn't this exciting? You know, I can see Joyce Wango. Joyce Wango is on the call. Thank you for joining. So this is an anthology done by a collection of women, and they are looking at the value of risk-taking, you know, and why women should embrace it as a strategy for growth and success. That is why we have Elizabeth Kalunda with us. And so far, so good. You listen to her story, very real, very authentic, something we can identify with. Thank you so much. So I proceed to the next question. Still on societal expectations, where women are expected to be polite, accommodative, what advice would you give to women on being bold and assertive while remaining feminine? Additionally, how do you walk the line between confidence and humility? There's a very fine line where being self-assured and confident can be perceived as arrogance, and that is coming from Joyce Wango.
Wow, that's a very good question in terms of how do we carry ourselves as successful women as we are breaking the glass ceilings. Yeah, so as you grow up, or as we try to just go up the career ladders, we find that the women are less and the men are more. Now, these traits that are being put here are traits that are associated with men, where we say men are more assertive, men are more bold, as we are a bit laid back. So how do we come up? Because now we've come out of our comfort zone and we've come out of this zone. How do we balance that confidence and that humility? So what I would say is that, one, we need to be true to our characteristics. So if you are a humble person, you need to be humble, but you need to be assertive. You should not be told, now because you are a woman, no, or when people are planning and they seem to be attending, they tend to be having some tendency that seem to be related to gender that are degrading you. Don't allow that to happen. But then one thing I would want to say about women, because sometimes we are seen to be maybe not as knowledgeable as the men. For the ladies who want to be there, what you must do is that when you go for a meeting, can you go prepared? Otherwise, if you don't go prepared and then you are asked a question or you give an opinion that is completely off, you are actually adding more stones. Actually, you are throwing the stones at yourself, and the men will be very happy to throw the stones back to you. So my key advice here is be prepared, prepare your talk, be bold and confident in whatever you are saying. And you can see by doing this, I'm not fighting anybody, but I'm presenting my points. So when men are busy fighting for their space, if you have a chairman or other members who actually appreciate what you are saying, and what the appreciation is because you are talking about substance, they will actually say, can we hear about a point from you, Prof? Can we hear about something from you, Dottie? Otherwise, if you go there and now you actually present yourself as this person who does not know what they are doing, they are not confident, and you see for us as women, sometimes when you excel, people will say you earned that seat through other means. So actually, it will be like, for sure, this lady maybe is a boyfriend, is a girlfriend to one of the people. Or it is, we all have had ladies where we are accused that we rise because of certain things. So can you make sure that that is not there? And for the ladies, I normally say, we have a higher responsibility than the men, because the men are expected to be, their assumption is they know, they understand these things, they can, they're assertive, they fight for space. So for us, we have to fight for our space, but not through muscles. Definitely muscles we cannot manage. Go with your brains. Go prepared. Get your facts right. Do good research. Be prepared. And if you are scared of speaking, because sometimes you might be saying, wow, I don't know what to say, can you practice what you are going to say? And when you go there with the confidence and the respect that you will get, you'll be able actually to survive. So ladies, that is what I can say. And again, when it comes to humility does not mean that you don't speak, that when you go for the meeting, your work is to clear the tables, to get tea for the men. No, let them get the tea for themselves. Maybe once in a while, you can be just courteous with your neighbor. Can I carry your cup for you? But you are not there to carry his cup, but still take your role in that table. I sit in a number of boards. I chair certain committees. At the Council of Hispanic, I'm the vice chairman. So we speak, but you can only speak sense. You can only get respect if you prepare yourself for that. So make sure you prove that point. And once you get used to some of these habits, they actually come automatically. So that even these insights, because you've tuned your brain to be thinking in a strategic way. Any question that comes in randomly, you'll actually be able to just dissipate and digest it and break it down in a very strategic way and come up with a very good solution or a good response. So that is what I would say. So ladies, let us not fear, but let us be prepared. And let us not borrow the bad habits of men. Since we are assuming now we are there, so we have to undercut people. We have to always to have cards under the table. No, let us do our game well. And again, sometimes I normally say it's important for you to be observant. If you are going maybe to, so like for example, if you are elected as a member of board, you need to just go. Sometimes I say just silence and just observing. It tells a lot and you get so much. So you can just be silent, speak about so that you learn and understand the culture of these people. So that since you behave like this is the way I'm supposed to handle you so that I'm going to be successful. So that is what I can say. So use your brain to fight. Yeah. Thank you, Dottie.
I love how you passionately answer these questions. Thank you. Elias Oweti is asking, other than sharing a forum like this, what strategy can one use to influence another? At what point can you declare that what you have isn't working for purposes of risk-taking into another venture or career? Great Prof and so insightful, even to men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you, Elias, for that very important question, where you are asking how can one use to influence another. Now, remember, there's this saying that always say that the people you associate with are a reflection of who you are. Now, for you to influence positively in a certain way, and especially for the young people who are here, you need to learn to associate with people who are always above you. When you associate with people who are above you, you can definitely learn a lot. And those people who are below you, not below you because of anything, but because maybe you are the same age group, but they have not gotten the opportunity to actually have that network that you have, they will look upon you and you're going to have a point of influence. So make sure you always try to build yourself so that you can be able to help those who are behind you. And normally I say that because we are normally told you are the average of the 5 people you associate with. Now, can you make sure you are because you are going to be in different categories. You should aim for a group where you are actually number last. That is a group for people who have really achieved. So you'll be the lowest among them. But on average, you're going to be higher than how you are. So you learn a lot. So that now when you go down to the people who look and look up upon you, you are going to influence. So you have to be very strategic in your association. There you are going to be able to network. And I would want actually to talk about a friend of mine who have observed his traits. And I've told him that you are really going to grow in terms of your career and your networks. Whenever we go for any networking sessions, when people are looking for their peers, he will now go and look for the highest person there. So if you have gone for maybe a meeting and then there's maybe the CSS, he will try to go to the CSS. And he gets a very good rap. You can imagine you are so young and interacting with these people. Definitely you'll come out there much better than you are. So be strategic so that you can be able, we normally say you cannot fill You cannot give what you don't have. So you have to develop yourself so that you can have a sphere of influence that you can actually add value on. You've also talked about at what point can you declare that that what you have isn't working for purposes of risk. Now, when we talk about risk and planning, remember you are projecting. Risk is about, if you are taking something that is risky or a move, you don't know about tomorrow, but you have actually come up with assumptions. This is how it will be. You've crafted the plan. So how will you know that you are not on the right trajectory? Now you need to compare what you had planned versus where you are. Are they in agreement, or is there a variance? Now, once you get the variance, then you need to ask yourself, why do we have this variance? Is it that I didn't plan well? Is it that I came with wrong assumptions? Is it that this thing is just not working? And remember, when we talked about risk, we've said, if there is failure, learn from that failure and take action and corrective action. So to answer your point, Elias, is that how will you know that you are on the wrong path? It is by comparing your plan versus where you are. And then now finding out, why are you not where you are supposed to be? What can you do? Why didn't you get there? And then from there, you'll actually be able to say, honestly, I'm in the wrong path. It's like when I'm going to Mombasa and then I take a different direction. As I go, yes, I'll be moving. I'll be taking the miles ahead, but I'll be seeing this does not seem to be where I want. So what do? I either decide now, let me change my destination to Kisumu, and I can do something in Kisumu, or let me take my way back and plan again and get the best route now to go to Mombasa. So comparing your expected and what you want to be, that is very important. Back to you, Dottie.
Thank you for that detailed answer. CPA Jacob Njeru says, Professor is always intentional in her undertaking, in road less traveled, full of hope. CPA Florence, we have a lot of CPAs here. CPA Florence, I love your passion and commitment in whatever you set to do. Yet you are never shy to share your story, whether successful or otherwise. Very motivational. Other than students, are you mentoring career women in leadership and excellence? What's your legacy sustainability plan?
Wow. Okay, that's a very deep question, especially on, in fact, I want to just see that question. That question is from whom? So that I get it point by point. The one of us, who am I mentoring? Am I mentoring women?
CPA Florence Biria.
Oh, that's from Bir. Okay. Okay, so Biria, I've seen the last question. I'm trying to see that question so that I can just take it up. Good. I've seen it. Yeah, so that's a very interesting question because you've asked, other than mentoring students, am I mentoring career students? So actually, I'll say right now, most of the mentees I have are actually career women. I'm actually having, one of my mentees is a doctor, a PhD, who is very good in consultancy, but feels like there's something else that she would want to do, which she has seen I've done well. So yes, I'm mentoring more. Actually, I can say right now, most of the people I'm mentoring actually are career people. My mentees who are here, they are all working. And the first discussion we had with them was like, oh, I feel I'm so stuck in my career. I feel like this and this. So from there now, we started having a journey. So where you plan, as in, this is where you want to be, this is where you are, so what should you do? And then in the process, whenever I have an event, I tag them along so that they can just come and also build also their own network that is different from mine. Yeah, so Florence, I mentor career women. And then there's a question of, what is your legacy sustainability plan? Now, this is a very deep question in terms of just what I would want. But for me, my largest, or the desire of my heart, because I also mentor the women in church. And remember, I said, for me, my key thing, I believe that women should be economically empowered. So what do I do? What do I want? So what do I want to be remembered for? Now, one, my plan is that by the time I am done with my mentorship, which I'm sure I will continue with it until I go down to 6 feet under. One is that my plan is that I would want to have a mentorship, maybe school or a coaching thing, where I will have women who have grown out of a mentorship, a coaching process, and they're able to mentor others. So my plan is to see a lineage of women who have grown, where if you look for the root, or if you look for the source, they all come from one, and we are all building each other. And in fact, I normally say sometimes later, I'll just call all these people I'm mentoring. Let's have lunch together. Let's talk together. Where do we want to be? We've been guided. We have grown. So where do we want to be? And sometimes I'm normally so happy when they come individually. But I feel for me, I would want them to meet each other, just like the project that Doso did where he decided to pick women who seem to have certain traits, let them tell their stories. So actually for me, I would like to have that, but a physical one, so that now we can say, now that we are almost where we wanted to be, or we are close to where we want to be, where should we, what can we do to impact? Because I believe in a life of impact. And for me, I would say that I have that advantage because one, my training was on education. I taught, and I could see the potential in these young kids. And I'm so happy when I see them doing so well. So for me, that is something that I think has just been inside. Maybe I was a career teacher, and that's why God had to let me start at that point, at that formative point, so that we appreciate what we put in these young ones actually is what now they end up being. And for me, that is very good. So for me, that would be my plan, my legacy. And in terms of maybe from the economic empowerment side, I'm so happy when I look at the businesses that I run. I do consultancies, and even now this business that we run, the farm, the money market farm, the Lofty Coban. I'm so happy when I hear people joining where they tell me, we are entrusting you with our money, my life savings, my life's earning, because we know you. We know you are an honest person. We know we can trust you. So for me, that is something that I feel like it's so important, where I'm helping you to grow, but you are coming to me, not because it's the profits or you are the growth of your investment that is pushing you, but there's that qualitative aspect of me as a person that has taken you to be there. I think for me, that's a legacy that I would live to protect. And it will be something that when I look backwards, I will say, yes, that story of Timothy, yes, I fought the fight and I won the fight. That is something that I really, that gives me the drive to continue tomorrow and to do the best that I can ever be. And as I said that, looking at the book that has definitely 13 chapters, because we are 13 of us, on we took the risks. The story that I'm giving is just my story now, and it's a story that I like to give because I want to inspire others. Now, there are these other 12 women who have similar stories. So if you can get that book, I think your life will never, ever, 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 ever be the same again. And for your life to be not the same again, it has to be intentional, because you can read a book and just remain the same. But buy that book with an intention of improving your life. Buy that book with an intention of learning how to embrace risk. Because without taking risk, you'll just be the same old you, year in, year out. And maybe something that I will relate to what Elias had asked, in terms of how do you know whether you're on the right path or not. Now, sometimes I say in life, and this is something that I believe in, you must be able, when you look back at your life, you must be able to see some growth. If I look at my life 3 years ago, right now, that 3 years is 365 times 3. Those are almost 1,000 days. Definitely, if I'm living my life in a purpose, in a life, if I live a life of purpose, I can never be the same. And this is despite age, because we'll all age. We are not counting your years, you are 3 years older, no. But how are your finances? How are your relationships? How is your career? So if you stay for that long without any change, then you really need to see, where is this comfort zone? What are these mistakes that you are making, that you are not using them to learn and improve, that you are still hanging on? Yeah, and for me, I said I really love the Bible. And the Bible is very clear in terms of growth. When you are, it actually says when you are a kid, I mean, when somebody was a baby, you spoke like a kid, you ate the food of a kid. But now when you grow, you should be able to walk and do quite a number of things. The Bible does not like stagnation, and it also doesn't like going down. So be very intentional on how you are going to be better than you were before. So if whether you are a Christian, whatever religion you prescribe to, I'm sure it talks about that. So be intentional in terms of where do I want to be. And this, I think the book of Habakkuk that talks about just write down your plans. So even for us in our lives, let us chart down what are our goals, what do we want to be. And then once you know what you want to be, then ask yourself, how will I get to that place? And once you do that, you'll see there are so many issues of changes that you have to change, coming out of your comfort zone that you have to, and I mean, instances like that you have to take. So pray about them, get mentors, get counsel, but be discernful in terms of who you are seeking counsel from, and you are going to see that your life will always change. Otherwise, just living because you have to live, I mean, for me, that is not what I believe. That is not what I profess. So thank you, and back to you, Dottie.
Thank you. I'm loving the prayer part of this. So plan, but also remember to pray. I think I want to close the questions that are coming on the chat. Please don't post any more questions. We have another opportunity on the 30th of November. You can come and listen to her talk again. And just like she has said, she's not the only author in the book. There are 13 of them. Hers is just but one chapter. And there are more other interesting stories. So you may want to get a copy of the book as well as be part of the launch event on the 30th of November. We have a registration link shared on the charts. You can click in there, enter your details, and then come. We celebrate Elizabeth Kalunda together with other 12 women. You can make an order for a copy of the book. We have a pre-order form. Once ready, the book will be delivered to you. And should you be having any questions or concerns, you want to reach out to us, we are also availing our contact details. Feel free to reach out. We shall be very joyous to attend to you. Let me break it a little bit. Before I go back to the questions on the chat, I want to bring Mr. Doso Radido to ask some questions. So Mr. Doso, the floor is yours. You can let us know what is in your heart, being the founder behind this project. It will be interesting to hear your questions as well. Karibu sana.
Well, thank you so much, Dottie. Of course, I am very proud. I am very, very proud of what is going on here. You just don't know what this is doing to the lives of the people who are in the session now and who will get to listen to this later on. And when we were beginning to put this project together, we actually desired that there would be an opportunity for conversations like this, because very, very powerful signals are being sent from this talk today. And like you correctly said, we have an opportunity to listen to just one of them. There are 13 other women who have plenty of stories. The ones we have listened to, including the previous webinars that we have had here, which I will encourage everybody in the chat to just visit our YouTube channel and listen, have been quite enlightening and eye-opening, and this is quite good, and I'm very happy, very, very happy. I have 3 questions that I want to ask Professor. I know she has talked a lot about taking calculated risks, and that's beautiful. I want you to touch on the place of adaptability and resilience in risk-taking, because as your quote correctly said, that risk-taking is a double-edged sword. Sometimes it's pleasurable, sometimes it's painful. I want you to attend to the issue of adaptability and resilience and why that is very important in one being effective with risk-taking. The other question I want to ask, I'll just ask all of them at the same time so you can answer the 3 of them. I want you to speak to the generational impact of risk-taking. And when you talk about this, If you can make a comment about what that does to the immediate, network of people around you, the community within which people come, or within which, this impact of risk taking is felt. But I also want you to stretch it to the generational impact of that. I would want to hear your thoughts about that. And lastly, I want you to speak to the question of what is a good speed when it comes to risk taking? And I would just probably put it in a statement: the speed of risk taking. How fast should that be, or how slow should that be? And what's in my mind as I ask this question is sometimes you are taking risks around opportunities that are not going to stay very, very long. And sometimes there's need to have some kind of speed, and sometimes that's not the case. You have all the time in the world. So what is your advice on the speed of risk taking? Thank you so much.
Yeah, so thank you so much, Radido, for those questions. So the first question was on the issue of adaptability and resilience along the route of risk. So now I would start by just going back to how I began, where I said that when it comes to risk taking, there's that element of uncertainty. There's that fear of failure because we don't know about the future. And also because you are coming out of your comfort zone, the probability of let me just say the chances of failure are there, because if you never took the risk, you'd still be where you are. So what I would say is that the issue of resilience is very important, because along the path of taking risk, definitely there'll be challenges, there'll be setbacks. But what is important is to rise up and to go on. Along the path of taking risk, there's going to be changes that you need to take into your life. So the issue of adaptability is very important. So we must have that, we must be able to be agile, such that changes that will require, that the changes that will be required to take to be able to achieve your goal, you should be ready to adapt. Like for me, I had to change my lifestyle. Remember, I mentioned that there's a time I had to cut my social life. I really cut my social life when I was doing my CPAs, and I also cut my life when I was doing my PhD. To an extent that maybe when my husband would go home to the village, people would wonder, this guy, does he still have the wife? Is the wife still there? Because now I'm working, I'm a mother, I'm a wife, and during weekends, that is when I can be able to work. So you must be able to adapt. But the beauty about adapting, about being agile, about being resilient, is that these things come for a season. So it is during that painful season, and actually I would call it like a pregnancy. When you are going to have a kid, you're going to carry that baby for 9 months. There'll be so many changes in your life, in your body. But once the 9 months are over and you have the baby, you can imagine the joy. And actually, when now you are having all these changes, when you are so uncomfortable, like a mother, even sleeping becomes a problem, turning, your body changes. You know that is for a purpose. And I normally say that all these changes actually tell us that you can always take more than what you had. You can always do more than what you have always thought you do. But there's a goal that you are waiting. So you can imagine the joy of having that baby. So even for me, when it comes to risk should have an end game. You cannot just be continuously taking risk in your life. Why are you taking this risk? You must have a goal. And that's why we said you must actually set your goals. So when you are taking risk, you must be very clear, what do I want? And how am I going to get there? And in the process, it's like a burning furnace, so like maybe diamonds and all that. So know that must be there. So for all of us who are willing to take risk, for all of us who will definitely take risk by reading the book and this conversation for today, know that there'll be changes in life. There are going to be painful lessons, painful sacrifices, but with clear goals, you are going to get there. The other question was on the generational impact on risk taking. Yeah, so I hope and understand. I understood your question well, so that I can be able to respond it well. So now the way I got to the question is maybe how it was generational impact and risk-taking. So I want to look at it in terms of the people maybe you that are close to you, the generation and maybe the next one. How does risk-taking impact? Now, for me, when I look at the issue of the impact of risk-taking beyond just the current times, what I normally say is that the women who have taken risks, they have admirers who they don't even know. They have young children who are actually saying, I want to be like her. They have women who are older than them who say, I admire that person and I want my kids to be like that person. There are people who are even older than you who will say, I know that I didn't do this, but since she did it and I'm inspired, I will do it. So what I would say is that for me, risk, ladies, let's take calculated, even the gents, because they are here, let us take calculated risks. And as we do whatever we are doing, one of our goals should be positive impact on the society so that people can actually desire and they will want to emulate you. In fact, like when I look at my life now, I have people who reach out to me who are actually from different generations and even now from different races. Why do they come to me? Because they have seen some value in me. How did I get that value? I got that value because of the risks that I took. So can we embrace risk, but make sure the points that I talked about, set clear goals, assess the potentials, have a support network, learn from the failures and celebrate successes. Those are very key points. And in the process, can you have a mentor? For me, that is something I'll keep repeating, because I know I am where I am because of that. Now, we talked about the speed. Now, risk, depending on what is your goal, the element of risk of time will always come in. Is it a risk that is going to impact on your life? Does it have a short-term goal or a long-term goal? Now, if the goals are short-term, time will be of essence. For example, if it is taking advantage of opportunities, then you have to be very fast. But then when it comes to opportunities, you cannot just say that it is the speed that actually made me succeed. What I would say is that it is your preparation before you knew what is going to come along your way. So what I would say now in relation to that, so that the aspect of speed of risk-taking can actually come out very clearly, is as you plan for your goal, when you set your goals, the risks and the opportunities that you are taking, the process that you are using to grow to be the person you want, and through the risk process, can you be very, can you appreciate the process? Can you just keep moving so that when opportunities come, you can actually grab them fast if you are actually ready at that point? In fact, I would want to relate this to, like, for example, the Noah's Ark. For those of us who read the Bible, Noah took very many years to build the ark. And all along, it looked so ridiculous. There was no rain, there were no floods. I mean, so it was something so ridiculous. So for him to have prepared for that moment, it was long term. But maybe those who never knew, they thought that, you see, now he had an ark, that is why now he was able to survive. The animals, probably the animals did not even know them. They just took the opportunity at that time. But for me, for us to embrace risk well, we have to keep developing ourselves. Remember, we are talking about personal growth, so that when this opportunity comes, you can actually be at a vantage point to actually embrace it and to get the best out of it. So risk and speed, or the seed, for me, I would say earlier preparations. Maybe it is the opportunity that never come, and then somebody will say you are so lucky. But looking back, this is a seed that was planted before. So back to you, Radido.
Well, thank you so very much, Professor. I'll hand the meeting back to Dottie.
Wow, this has been inspiring. It is impressive. It's exciting. It has been poignant. It has been all good things. Time is limiting us. I'm trying my best to make sure that all questions are answered here. Let me see how much we can do. So there's a question here. Is it a question or a comment? Beside the historical prejudices against women, the corporate world has started appreciating women for their honesty, commitment, resilient, visionary, and less corrupt, therefore best suited for good governance roles. Thank you for that comment. I'm just trying to see that at least everyone has something said about their concern. In line with being assertive, that is clear, Prof, speak on the matter of negotiating for your vote, accepting less. I think that is important.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Claire, for that question. And that is something I would want to speak to the women, because we are so used to being a bit laid back, being a bit shy in terms of coming up with our value. So what I would say is that let us learn from our brothers and sisters and see how they negotiate and see how they push for things, and then also not be shy. But then as we value ourselves, let us put a value that makes sense. And by a value that makes sense, I mean a value that we are not going to lower our value and also not overpraise ourselves, so that we actually like price ourselves out of the competition. So how do you get this? Before you go to the negotiating table, can you know what you are offering? Can you know your value? Can you know your worth? And then don't be shy. And as you negotiate, just tell them, I'm bringing X, Y, Z on the table. And this is what I will need to be compensated for to actually give this value. So for me is know your worth and do research. Because sometimes I feel I've been a victim of that, where you go and negotiate for maybe a role and then your counterparts get more. How did they get it? They were men. They just said double. I mean, and you are a bit modest. So never be shy about placing a value on yourself. But before you do that, make sure any value, any coin that you put there, you can actually account for it. So in short, know your worth, price it, cost it, and don't be shy. And when you're negotiating, you say, yes, I'm bringing 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'll bring even more. But these are the ones that I'm bringing right now. But there's potential for so much once you give me the opportunity. Back to you, Dottie.
Thank you. There's another one here. How do you approach situations where you feel your personal or professional growth has plateaued? What steps do you take to overcome stagnation and regain momentum? I feel like I am stuck. That is Janet B.
Yeah. Actually, Janet, thank you for that question, because most of the mentees that I have, they feel like that. And for me, okay, sorry, I'm fixing my charger. Sorry, just give me one second. Yeah.
So what we managed to handle today will be that if
Yes.
something goes
Okay, now,
unattended,
yeah.
you're welcome.
Yeah, now I'm set with my power. Yeah, so what I would want to tell Janet is that for me, I find that is a good feeling, because that feeling is what now unsettles you. So if you don't feel you are stuck, you are either in your comfort zone or you are at the right place that you should be. Now, those moments, they have always been there in my life. And those are the moments that give me the energy to now sit back and ask myself, why can't I move to the next level? Now, the reasons for that would be maybe the next level requires more certificates and I don't have. So now that is the time you have to say, I have to go back to school. The next one would be maybe the tasks that I'm given are the ones that are not giving me an opportunity to shine. So that's when now you can say, can I go and request for more tasks? Or can I volunteer in other projects in this organization so that I can be known that I can do this? So these are those moments that you have to send yourself. You have to put your best foot forward. And let me tell you, for all of us who are listening, nobody will notice you. It is you to actually ensure that you are being seen. Nobody will notice you, that they will say that, oh, I've seen Janet, maybe here, she's so good. No, you have to go a step beyond what you normally do. You have to do what you do well, so that that person somewhere who has that maybe power or that influence will actually say that you can do this. Now, sometimes I know, sometimes I find what maybe might make you stick there is where now you will take as yourself into, like you are trying now to pity yourself, and you resign to fate. No, I always say, look at why are you where you are? What can you do? And I think in my life, that's what I've always done. Sometimes even what I'm currently doing in situations where people might feel that I've achieved, I say now, no, I think I've outgrown this. I feel like I'm not just where I should be. But then don't leave the question to, I feel like this. The question should be, why am I feeling like this? Could it be maybe the job that I'm working, there's no room for growth? So now you have now to prepare yourself for the next job. And that's when now when even Radido was asking about the speed of risk, when you exit, people will say that, oh, this girl is so lucky, she always gets job, but you didn't just get it, you prepared yourself. You even went out and made that application. And for you to have successfully applied, you had looked at the requirement and known, if it was 2 years from now, I wouldn't have gotten this job because I didn't have X, Y, and Z. So what I would encourage all of us is that always look at maybe positions. If it is a career thing, look at somebody who is way above you and ask yourself, what can how for me to be there, what will I need? And once you do that, definitely, if you are somebody who is interested in growth, you'll actually be able to map up the issues. Actually, remember I was talking about assess your potential. So look at your potential and be very honest when you are doing this assessment. And then from there, you'll be able to just get the right path. Yeah.
Thank you for that response. I will read maybe 2, 3 comments. Nicodemus, very much inspiring talk. This is a great boost for those of us thinking of changing our career to a totally different direction. We've learned from you. It's doable. Thumbs up. Jared Bosira, great inspiration. What an amazing journey. Claire M, true Prof. Kalunda, enjoying the fruits of your labor now is important while also looking at the future. Very inspiring journey. Keep soaring. Okay, then there's a long one here. Very inspiring journey. Prof is a great person. We met once, shared contacts, but once shocked me when she texted me to inspire me on my business idea that I had posted online. Keep up, Prof, inspiring and mentoring others. Having watched and listened on Prof's journey, what are the key challenges you faced on the way, especially transitioning from a classroom teacher to a career accountant? You may touch on that lightly, Prof, because the time is not on our side, and then we can move to the next phase of it.
Yeah, so let me tell Jeremiah, still wait for me, I'm coming. My promise will still stand. And then there's that question on, it was careers. I'm trying to look for it so that I get it right. Who had asked that question, Dottie, please?
About career?
Yeah, that one, yeah. Who had asked, because I didn't get it clearly. Maybe you can repeat for me.
I'm also trying to get it. There has been a lot here. So you answered Janet's question.
Okay, was it the challenges I faced when transitioning?
Yes, the challenges you faced. Sorry, that one.
Yeah, so definitely as I was changing my career, it was really a challenge. You can imagine doing debits and credits when you have never had them. You can imagine you are doing this in the evening. Now, for me, how I was able to, because I knew for me to change my career, I have to pass through this professional exam, and I have to excel in those exams. So what I did, because I had challenges to understand some of these things. I became the friends of the teachers. Now, the same thing I'm saying, if you want to grow, become friends to those people you emulate. Now, for me, in fact, I remember at first I felt like the teacher was being very mean because I went and told the teacher, now I've never done the foundational courses of CPA. I can't understand this debit credit things. You are taking us so fast. He told me, no, you're in the wrong class. The class that teaches now people like you who are beginners is normally during the day or during the weekend. For me now, that could not really work. So I told him, I'm not going to change my classes, but I'm going to be in your class. So when we used to go to class, we used to get so many questions. I would do those questions. I would do extra questions. I would give those questions to the lecturer to mark for me. And I was actually able to get an award in that section of the exams. How did I do that? I'm the one who pushed myself because I knew my weaknesses, but I knew how much I wanted this profession. And you can imagine that was FA1, where we are now learning debits and credit. If you get it wrong, you are lost in the whole career. Up to now, that lecturer is a very, very good friend of mine, very, very good friend of mine. And you can imagine I went to approach him because I had a problem. He told me, I'm not helping you, you're in the wrong place. And me, I told him, no, me, I'm in the right class, and I'm going to do extra. And all the assignments, actually, when we were doing our CPAs, it was not a must to do the assignments, but we could always be given. I continued doing them. I started passing, and you'd even mention it in class, and I excelled in that class. So what I would say is that along the way, definitely there'll be challenges. We talked about resilience, we talked about adaptability, but that is not enough. You cannot be resilient where you are not succeeding. You have to just ask yourself, what is the key to overcome this challenge? For me, it was to be a friend to these people. For you, if it is a career, you need now to know what do you want? Who is this who can actually help you get where you want to be? And again, for this, it should be done without compromising your values, yeah? Because sometimes the world has also become a bit corrupt. So as you do all these things, remember your values. I talked about my farm where people have joined because of the values, the characteristics I have. So remember, as you go up the career ladder, if you use the right path and keep to your values and keep to virtues, values that relate to virtues, you'll go very, very far. Your journey might be slow, but you'll have preserved, the most honorable thing that you'd ever want. So issues like corruption, maybe you want to be rich and you can only get that richness or that wealth through corrupt thing. That wealth will just disappear the way you did. So work hard and plant the seed, nurture the seed and grow it to a strong tree, other than just doing the wrong thing. So as we take the risks, as we do our calculated risk, my appeal to all of us is always do this in an environment that is just, observe virtues and do them rightfully. And you are going definitely to get the reward. The time might delay, but you will definitely be there. When the opportunity comes that day, you'll seize the opportunity. And people will wonder, hey, at what speed have you moved? But it is because you are prepared and you became who you became through a just way, where if you look back, you can actually be proud. When it comes to going home to sleep, you'll sleep very comfortably without trying to look out, without trying to be so worried, who is this who is actually trying to harm me? Yeah, so that's what I can say, Dottie. But I'd really want to encourage all these, the viewer, those who have logged in, we'll be having more sessions. We'll be having the launch where you'll be able to listen to all the remarkable ladies, different stories, different dimensions, but all with one goal, just telling us the importance of embracing risk. And for women, this is something we cannot leave behind. This time, hatuachwe nyuma. We are moving, we are embracing risk, and we are going to develop ourselves. Thank you, and back to you, Dottie.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That sounded like a parting shot, but I still want you to come and finally say something, a sentence or two would do, so that you can invite these people to the launch on that day. Give them a special invite. But before then, allow me to give very special thanks to everyone who logged on this call. Thank you for being part of this conversation. Thank you for your very active engagement. You have made this conversation very interesting and very productive. To our panelist of the day, Elizabeth Kalunda, you're awesome. You're amazing. You're wonderful. That was so insightful, transformative, educative, inspirational, impactful. We can call it all the beautiful names we want to call it, but I know for sure from the responses, from the comments, from the questions, people have been impacted. We are so glad to have had you today. I would also want to say thank you to Zion Pearl team. that is working behind the scenes to make sure that this is possible. And how can I miss not to say thank you to the founder, the man behind this project, the he for she, Mr. Doso Radido, the founder and director of Zion Pearl Publishers. Thank you for giving us this platform, and we know from this platform, many lives will be transformed. With that, Elizabeth Kalunda, you can give us a sentence or two, and then welcome to your launch event on the 30th of November. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Dottie. Thank you so much, Radido. You've done an amazing job. You've taken risks to approach these women, compiling that book. So thank you, and may God bless you, and can you continue doing more of this? So now, to all of us who have logged in, let me tell you that you have to invest in your growth. As a tree or as a seed, you have to water it. Now, since we have looked at how important risk is, since we have seen that you have to have a plan, can you come and join us during the launch of this book, which will be on the 30th of next month? It's going to be at the Tribe Hotel. We have shared the links on how you can join in. The book goes for only 2,500, and you get 13 chapters that are so inspirational, that are so life-changing. I request you to invest in yourself with the little knowledge that I've shared with you today, and invest yourself now. This is a big investment. This is a capital investment by actually acquiring the book and coming in for more of the sessions, so that as you now plan, because I'm sure now your mind is not the same way as it came. I mean, as when we began, you are now beginning now to ask yourself, should I do this? Should I do this? So please be a friend of us at Zion Pearl Publishers. Come for the event. I'll be sharing more. Like today, my status, I've just put what we are doing. I've been sharing in all the WhatsApp group. I've been, as a good friend, somebody asked about how would you, your influence in your sphere of the sphere you operate in. Tell your friends that there is this book that is about to be launched, and give them the details so that they can also grow with you. Remember, you are the average of your network. So let's expand the value of the network so that we can also expand and grow. So with those few remarks, I really thank you for your time. Just getting this time. I know it's a work day, it's a busy afternoon, but we have all been here. Asanteni sana na tuonane Tribe, and before then in the so many pre-launch webinars that we'll be having. Thank you so much, and back to you, Dottie.
Asante sana. Thank you, Elizabeth Kalunda. My name is Dottie Achieng. I've had the privilege of moderating this session, and I have enjoyed myself. Once again, thank you all. And at this point, you can feel free to leave at your leisure. See you in our upcoming events, and more so, the launch on the 30th of November. Kwaherini.
Kwaherini nyote.
Emmanuel. Your name